Do you remember the first time certainty shifted under your feet and you suddenly began to question what you've been taught and told was true? All of us, at some point, begin to understand that not everything we've been taught to believe is true. For a lot of us, that first time has to do with beloved characters or figures that we didn't understand were fictional. No spoilers in case young ones are watching. But as we get older, we learn that they aren't what we thought. That's hard when you're 7 and it's the tooth fairy. It's even harder when you're 17 and you're questioning God. Maybe you don't think of a being called God. I just use that word because that's what I grew up with. Some of my friends seem to think that having any questions about God or God's existence is bad or dangerous. But I think we all, or almost all of us, wonder if that being actually exists at some point. Or maybe we still believe in God, but we begin to wonder if God is anything like we've been told. Or maybe it's that we question if God wants us to do or believe the things we grew up doing and believing. The faith or spiritual tradition that we grew up with starts to fall short, or have holes in it, or contradict our lived experience. And it's disorienting. I've heard this process called deconstruction. For some people, this feels like a wrecking ball for their faith, or some sort of explosive demolition, or a dinosaur attack. And that can be scary. People who never question their faith can see it and assume that a person going through some sort of faith deconstruction is losing their faith altogether, or they're walking away from it on purpose. I don't think that's what's going on. I think sometimes people just need to take some things apart, see how or if they work, and then decide how or if to put them back together. I'm sure that sounds terrible to some people. Like, it might sound like they're treating something sacred as if it were building blocks that you can just mix and match. For some of my friends, that's offensive. But I wonder if God is so easily offended by curiosity and honest exploration. As our teams had conversations about this idea, a team member named Taylor, the one who does our music, used the phrase, "Take it apart, don't just throw it away." As a kid, did you ever take something apart to see how it worked? I always had extra parts left over. I did it with my Fisher-Price tape recorder, and it kept playing Michael Jackson's album Bad just fine. I actually think each of us needs to let that wrecking ball knock some old stuff down so we can rebuild something that is really our own. You should examine all your beliefs. You shouldn't rely on someone else's faith or spirituality. You should have your own. That's healthy. My dad used to say, God has no grandchildren, only children. Whatever you think about a higher power or divine force, find your own direct connection to it. Don't go through someone or something else. How have you experienced wrecking balls in your own spirituality or faith? What were you so certain about, but then began to question? Were you able to find a safe space to wrestle with these questions? Tapestry can be that safe space. We'll take a deeper look at these questions in our next podcast episode, out next week. To find the podcast and for a safe space to talk about these questions and more, join the conversation at tapestrytalk.org.